Today, we're going to talk about 8 tips that's going to help you get better in Black Ops Cold War. Most of these tips are going to apply to any Call of Duty game, so you can take them back to Modern Warfare or into the next Call of Duty game and still perform well. So if you want to get more kills and die less, make sure you stick around to the end of the video, and if you liked it, subscribe for more Cold War content. Let's get into the video. The first tip is to position yourself so that you have the least amount of sight lines on you as possible. Obviously in Cold War, you can be attacked from many different angles, and you can't cover them all. So your best option is to try and limit the amount of angles that people can shoot you from. The easiest way to do this is to try and stick to the edges of the map when you're moving around. This way you can rule out being shot from the closed side of the map, and you only have to worry about the open side. But sometimes you may want to venture in towards the middle of the map because that's where all the action is or where an objective is. In these situations, you should be looking for walls and pieces of cover that you can position yourself around to cut off sight lines. Let the map work for you so you don't have to swivel your head around so much. If you can get good at doing this, you'll notice you'll be dying a lot less. Another tip that involves map awareness is to pay attention to when your teammates are pushing into the enemy spawn. When you see this happening, that's a good sign to turn around and start watching your back, because the spawns are probably already flipped or about to flip. This is the main reason why you'll hear people always say, don't push into the enemy spawn or don't triple cap, because they know once that happens, enemies are going to start spawning behind you and all of you guys are going to lose your positioning. The more you start doing this, you'll begin to realize there's usually a cutoff point in the enemy spawn where if you cross this point, now the spawns will flip. But if you don't cross that point, you can just keep getting kills right outside of their spawn. In general, it's a good idea to keep track of where your teammates are anyway, because their positions can give you a clue on where the enemy is when there's no UAV up. This next tip is pretty simple, but believe me, you will be surprised at how many people still aren't doing this. And that's keeping your crosshair where you expect enemies to be. If you're walking or running around the map, do not try to just keep your aim centered in the middle of the screen, which is what a lot of people do. Instead, you want to adjust your aim to where you think your opponents could potentially pop out on you, or aimed at head glitch spots and other power positions that people like to hold down. This is going to help you be ready in those situations where you're rounding a corner and somebody's head glitching behind a trash can. And if your aim is already positioned where they're going to be, you have a much higher chance at coming out on top in that gunfight. Another tip that should definitely help you get a lot of kills is to use a shotgun on your back for close quarters engagements, especially inside of buildings. Shotguns are really good right now. They dominate the close range, and they cost you pretty much nothing to just throw it on your back. And on certain maps, you're really going to wish you had one. One map in particular that comes to mind is Armada inside of the boat. Running a shotgun here is going to easily allow you to clean up this area with no problems. I see a lot of people trying to use assault rifles and tactical rifles in there, and they just get dominated when someone pulls out a shotgun. So go get those kills and thank me later. Building on the class-based tips, this next tip is to make your classes fit your playstyle and the game modes you're playing. For example, if you know you're going to run and gun, sure, it could be done with an assault rifle, but it's going to be better if you used an SMG. And if you're going to be flanking a lot, slap on a suppressor, ninja, and ghost, because you don't want to be getting found while you're behind enemy lines. If you prefer a more mid-range playstyle, then grab your favorite assault rifle or tactical rifle and stack on the bullet velocity and damage range so you can dominate from a distance. If you know you're going to be playing a lot of domination and hardpoint, you might want to take flak jacket and tactical mask so you can have an easier time taking the objectives and absorb explosives. But you also shouldn't be afraid to change your class based on the game flow and what your opponents are doing. Have a cold-blooded class with rocket launchers ready for those games when things don't go your way and there's choppers flying all over the sky. If you're having trouble leaving your spawn because there's snipers watching it and hitting you as soon as you leave out, then maybe switch to a flanking class with some smoke grenades, or start sniping yourself if you're good at it. Just don't be so stuck in a single class setup that you let it negatively impact your performance. Moving on, another quick tip is to learn your favorite gun's recoil pattern. A lot of people default into thinking that if I just pull the analog stick or the mouse downward, I am now counteracting the recoil of this gun. But that's not always the case. Some guns might kick up and to the left or up and to the right. And so if you're just going downward, you're not counteracting the horizontal recoil. So just shoot your gun in a private match or at the start of a game so you can figure out where your gun's gonna go and you can counteract it. If you can get good at this, you'll start to notice that some guns that you might have thought were a bit uncontrollable before are actually much easier to manage. This next tip is another one that a surprising amount of people don't realize, and I think that's because it's a little counterintuitive when you first think about it. So the tip is, you don't need to kill every single person you see. I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes you just have to let people go and move on. This is because some fights simply aren't worth taking. For example, if you're caught out in the open and you see a guy holding down a window and he sees you too, it's probably best to just run away from this fight. That guy clearly had the advantage, and the odds are if you challenged him in the open with no cover, you were going to lose. But now that you know this guy's there, maybe now you can take this information and go and flank him instead of dying in a head-to-head confrontation. The same idea kind of applies to people that you see moving around the map and you really want to take a shot at them. But this person is really close to cover, and if you take the shot, you know you won't be able to kill them, but you'll just graze them before they get behind a truck or something. In those situations, if you don't have cover or holding down a power position, don't shoot at those people, because the moment you shoot, you've now let them know exactly where you are unless you had a silencer, and they now have the cover to give them the advantage in this fight. It's just not worth taking the shot, not being able to finish the kill, and then having them reverse the situation on you. So you want to wait to shoot until you know for a fact that you can finish them off. And piggybacking off of this tip, the final tip is to be smart about revenge kills. Sometimes the smartest move is to simply not do it. If you just got killed by a camper in a good position, if they're a decent player, they're going to be waiting for you to come back because they know people like to chase revenge kills. And going back there, especially without a plan, is probably going to lead to your demise. So if you just have to go back there, make sure you have a plan. Carry some stuns, approach from a different angle, maybe jump shot or slide through the doorway, something to throw them off. And be prepared for them to have changed positions by the time you get back. Smart campers aren't going to be in the same place the next time you go to kill them. Just make sure to try and create your own advantage if you go back there. If you learned something today, hit the like button on this video and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. I'd really appreciate it. If you have some tips that you want to share, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'm Doc Caesar, and I hope to see you next time.